I'm Stuart from Deadline. First morning of our reality TV summit, and now we have the keynote, who is Saida Atizali, who is director of Unscripted at Netflix UK. Saida, where to start?
I don't know. You tell me.
Okay, I'll tell you. Cast your mind back, pre-Netflix, because Netflix is still, 2-3 months?
Yeah, it was my 3-month anniversary yesterday. I got a little note from Netflix going, "Congratulations, you've been for exactly 3 months." I was like, fuck. Okay. That went fast.
Is it 3 months where you feel, is it one of those jobs where you feel like you've been there for like 10 years already because everything's happening so quickly, or do you still feel
really
like the
weird.
newbie?
I feel like I've been there forever, and I feel like I've only just got there. So it's that weird, everything moves at such pace at Netflix that I haven't even learned the acronyms yet.
Okay, good.
I don't know what they mean.
All right. So enough Netflix. Let's talk about the BBC.
Yes.
I mean, you had a really great stint there.
Yes.
Lots of good shows came of that. If I had to think of one, it would be The Traitors, and I think we need to, you're the exec behind that, so I think we need to think about that for a moment. And in terms of, we had a session earlier with producers, brilliant producers who make some of the the biggest and best shows out there. And I think often you also get into a conversation where people talk about, there's a sense that there's a sort of, it's very hard to land a new format, perhaps because commissioners are risk averse, right? It's kind of quite tough for certain types of, particularly on sort of linear broadcast commissions. So in terms of just that Traitors piece, did it feel like a big risk at the time? Because it was a Dutch format originally, or did it just suddenly blow up into something you never anticipated?
No, I think every commission is a risk. Every single unscripted show is a risk. There is absolutely no guarantee that anything is going to work. And I think what happened with The Traitors, I was, at the time that we got The Traitors, I had this sort of bizarre job at the BBC, which was channel editor. The channel controller's just gone, and so I was looking after BBC One. And Charlotte asked me what I thought was missing. Charlotte Moore. Sorry, I'll use surnames. And I said, a big reality show. Like, we don't have a big reality show on BBC One. We should have one. So she went, well, go and find one then. So I'd done a deal with NBC. We did a big development deal, and they were tracking this Dutch show called De Verraders, created by Mark Poz. And it just come out, and I watched the first one, and it sort of gave me the feeling, you get the feeling when you're watching something and you really go, oh, I really love this. All the elements were there. There was a sort of Dutch castle, the people were in cloaks, there was a little bit of sort of weird coffin action. And I was like, oh, I think there's something special here. I think we should do this one. I had absolutely no idea or any special magic feeling that this was going to be the one, that this was the one that was going to suddenly blow up. But I really loved the storyline, I really loved the hook, I really loved the emotional truth at the heart of it. I really loved that it was all, the structure of the world was all built around the emotional engine to get real, authentic reactions from people. And then it wasn't being prodded at from the side by producers. Like, it was real. And so then we had the joy, which should be a show in itself, the joy of trying to get it through the BBC, which, Charlotte was a really big fan of it, so was Kate, and I spoke to Studio Lamp. Sorry, Kate Phillips. Sorry. Kate Phillips, and, and we spoke to Studio Lambert, who had the rights. We decided to do it as a hub, which gave us more freedom to go big. And I think it was just a combination of brilliant program making, really, really good team, a lot of luck, alchemy, all those things that made it blow up. But I think probably for me, the most important thing was that I never set out to make it as a reality show. I set out to make it as a drama with real people in it. And that execution of that, and people like Joe, who was there doing the missions, the execution of that was really important. The edit, the execution, how it was filmed. Ben Archer, who's the series director, is phenomenal. I used a surname there, just want to say. It's phenomenal. And it's really great to see him being sort of, getting all the plaudits, all the Emmys and all the BAFTAs for this amazing direction. The edit was amazing. The producers, the execs really understood that brief. We edited it like a drama.
Well, something else that came up earlier was that the need, the necessity for instant success, that sometimes shows don't get a moment to breathe. And I think when you look back on such a smash hit, a juggernaut show like that, it's easy to kind of just think it was a hit straight out the gate. But actually, that's not the case, is it?
No. So we launched off the back of the England-Wales World Cup match, right? Which got 13.5 million viewers.
Amazing lead-in.
Amazing lead-in, right? In the middle of November, we're like, yes, this is going to be good. And then the overnights came out over the next day, and it was 2.9 million. And I remember someone at the BBC, I won't say who, just went, oh, well, you gave it a good go. These things don't always work. It's fun. And I was like, oh, fuck. But, I knew what we'd done, because we had done it like a drama, we had 4 weeks of it. We did 3 episodes a week, and we created them like chapters. So I knew there was a big cliffhanger at the end of the 3rd episode, which was the first chapter. I knew we had a really good eps 4, 5, and 6 of that first series in the second week. So it's like, let's hold on. Let's keep the hope up. The second 2 then got 1.2 million and 1.4 million because they'd been, like, you could watch the first 3, like you batch drop them. And so everyone was like, oh, well, that's that. And so, I was having a bit of that deflation that you feel when you've launched something, you really believe in it. We all know it. And if you feel like, why aren't people watching it? I don't understand. And then episode 4 happened. And sorry if you haven't watched it, I'm going to spoil it for you now, but there's a moment in there which we call the Red Breakfast, where, one of the contributors said, stood up very, famously now and said, she's not a traitor, she's my girlfriend. And the whole, breakfast, and the whole thing just went mad, which is called the Red Breakfast. And it blew up. And suddenly everyone was talking about it. And then people were going back to watch the first 3. And it was at that moment that it started to climb and climb and climb. And so by the end, we were on 5.4 million or something.
As someone, you greenlight shows and you exec them, what are the lessons here in terms of a huge unscripted show like that? Is it kind of, just stick with your gut, have faith, through even if it doesn't launch strong? Because you've got, as you say, your bosses saying, oh, bad luck, and that must kill you.
It wasn't my bosses. I'm not going to say it was my boss.
Okay,
I'll say certain people. I won't say who. But look, I think we always think that. I think everyone thinks stick with your gut, be brave, hold on, it's going to be all right. It isn't. I think the quickest thing to learn from it is why it isn't working. Like, if it isn't working, fail with intention. What are the lessons learned? Learn them quickly. Try and work it out either for the next series or move on. I think that's where we're at right now.
This isn't a traitor session, but one more.
I love talking about the traitors.
Because also I think it is actually part of the story, isn't it? Because that was recognised by your current employers, I think. So it is part of that.
I mean, but it's why I'm here.
Back to you had a hit show, people were really, really into it.
Yeah.
Celebrity would feel like, in some respects, launching a celebrity version does kind of feel like a natural way to, make the franchise bigger. And yet, I think, I'm not sure everyone was it was cast really great, but what are the tricks in terms of getting that sort of second iteration just right? Were you always sure that was going to work?
I mean, we were the first territory to not do it with celebrities. De Veradas was a celebrity format. The original one was a celebrity format. And then the 1 or 2 territories that had already been bought, they were also doing celeb versions. We were the first. I was really adamant that it had to be real people because the emotional stakes were truer and higher with real people. And so I was absolutely adamant, and luckily so were Studio Lambert. We both agreed it had to be real. And so when Charlotte first posited the celebrity one, I was like, no, I don't want to do it. I think it's going to ruin it all. And I really didn't want to do it. But then we had a conversation about how do we keep the stakes authentic? How do you keep it credible? How do you not fill it full of people who are just trying to raise their profile or doing it for the money? First of all, you don't offer them very much money. That's the first thing. But the second of all, it was, if we're going to do this, let's just do it with people that really love the game, because this is a game. Find people that are super fans of the game, and if they want to play it, they will play it properly. And we started by, the first booking was Stephen Fry, which was helpful.
Yeah.
And he really loved the game and he really wanted to play. And he doesn't do this sort of show. And I think that just gave a signal to the rest of the celebrities about the sort of the calibre of celebrities that we got. And Ros Phillips did such an amazing job of getting people on board in that first series. It wasn't easy. People think it was really easy. It really, really wasn't, actually. But this amazing cast came together. And, you know, I really wanted Alan. And I knew the moment we had Alan, I knew that we also wanted to make him a traitor. I didn't think he was going to win it, but I wanted to be a traitor because I've known Alan for years. I commissioned Chatty Man back at Channel 4.
Okay.
And it was, I just didn't have to worry. I mean, when they were there, it was the most extraordinary sight to see all of them coming out the car and then scrabbling around in the dirt on their hands and knees with Claudia magnificently wearing her traitor's cloak with celebrities, in inverted commas, on it. It was extraordinary. There was a moment. I'll tell you the other thing about Traitors, actually, just going back to that first series. I didn't know whether it was going to be successful or not, but there was a moment where I thought, I think we might have something special here, which was in that first series, the cameraman, the cameramen, soundmen, everyone, all the amazing crew were on shifts, and they started to not go home at the end of the shifts. And I was like, why are you all still here? They're like, we're just going to see what happens at the round table tonight. I was like, something's happening here. Because they would be going home. They've seen this they've seen all this stuff. Something's going on here. There's something a bit special. And that continues. I mean, even now, everyone that goes to make that show is amazing and loves the show with a passion. And I think that also comes through.
So that's a story of success, and it's fun to hear you talk about it and kind of to get into the the sort of behind the scenes and sort of, the origin story. I mean, when we sort of pan out and think about the business more broadly, it is tough out there for a lot of producers. Really you both know great people who are maybe out of work at the moment, etc. It's kind of a difficult moment. I mean, what is your? Of course, there are these sort of big hit juggernaut shows, but I mean, what is your read of the kind of reality, really the wider unscripted business out of the UK at the moment? Because we've got incredible talent, and yet it does feel that it's a tough moment for some folks.
Yeah, I think that's really true. I think it is the best of times and the worst of times for unscripted and for television at large. And I know plenty of friends, plenty of people that have just left the industry because there's just no work. And I think it is really hard. I think the volume of content has gone. That squeeze middle means that huge volume of content that used to exist no longer exists. And you've either got the stuff that's really big or the more targeted sort of fandom programming at the other end, and there's not much in between. But I also think the opportunity is really great. I think there's such a desire to get unscripted shows on television, and a good idea, I genuinely believe this, no one ever believes me when I say this, but a good idea can come from anywhere. I am seeing, indies and producers of all shapes and sizes, small bands, big bands, large, everyone, and from different genres, because I don't want to miss a really great idea. I really don't, and I really genuinely mean that. And if you can't, I will need to be reassured that you can make it. So I think if you've never made something like that, but you've got the good idea, we will bolster that and ensure that we can help.
Well, let me jump in there, because I think that's an interesting point. I think often when people see, some head of unscripted at Netflix or, someone even at a broadcaster, I think at an industry level, when you speak to people, there's sometimes a sense that the commissions go to the biggest companies. And I guess from the buyer commissioner perspective, there's a degree of sureness. These people have made stuff before. That's why they're the biggest. But I sense from speaking to people that sometimes the sort of medium, smaller companies feel that they really struggle to get a look in. But you're saying that the door genuinely is open?
Genuinely, come and see me. I won't say no.
But you may...
I might say no to your idea, but I won't say no to seeing you.
But then in execution, would you... If you love an idea, whether this was Bieber or Netflix, you would want someone to partner with someone more established?
Yeah, probably. I think if you've never made a show of that massive infrastructure before, I would expect to help you by partnering you with people that have, so that it's a collab. You've seen it before with The Garden and with, Studio Lamb. Like those things happen quite a lot at Netflix, and I think the more cross collaboration that can be done anyway, across genres, across companies, across sort of talent skill sets, the more exciting for the industry.
Well, but it's interesting to hear you talk about the traitors having like the beats of a drama. Because earlier on in the first session, the people running, big production companies, there was this sense that, maybe when you blur the lines, the results can be more interesting. So you're saying in terms of you want to see a range of different people?
Completely. I want, from different, I'm seeing people from documentary companies, I'm seeing people from, more sort of fact tank companies, I'm seeing drama companies, and I'm seeing unscripted companies. And I'm excited about trying to be bold and audacious with what the sorts of things that we find for Netflix going forward. At the heart of everything is people and stories, and my job in my role is to come up with content that's going to surprise and delight. Those are the watchwords, but that surprise thing is really important. And I think you get more surprised by finding beats from different genres and using them in unscripted.
And how are you, and I appreciate, as you said at the top, it's very early days, but how are you finding, either in terms of the process or kind of the results in terms of greenlighting something? So obviously the Traitors lived on iPlayer and there's an on-demand element, but it was doing huge linear numbers.
Yeah.
You're now working for an SVOD. The principles are different, and I don't think you were here for the first session, but there were some people were talking about the sense of, how is a big reality show marketed when you're in the sort of streamer environment? What are the differences that you're sensing in terms of your job of getting great shows away? Because it's for a different platform, for a different way of watching.
Yeah, look, I think it's always hard to launch an unscripted show. I think the first thing you have to get over is people just going, well, what is it? What is it? I don't really understand what it is. I don't know if I want to spend time with it. Also, I think trying to work that out, whether you're a streamer or whether you've got a linear platform, is really, really important. Trying to understand what the emotional hook is, the irresistible hook that makes you come in the first place, is really important. But yeah, of course it is. It's always hard. Our marketing team are amazing at Netflix, and I think they are really good at understanding that there's a sort of wide plethora of amazing things to watch on the streamer. So how are you sort of punching through? And that social conversation, I think, is also really important. The talkability engine is really important. But look, what's happening on the streamer is only what's happening in the industry, right? I know that viewers spend 4 days a year choosing what to watch. Four of your days a year, you just spend trying to work out what to watch. And if you're having an argument about that, it's probably about 6 or 7 days. But so it's hard anywhere. It's just hard across the industry. And I think the other thing is we're all looking for similar sorts of ideas. We're looking for big, irresistible, hooky shows that are going to punch through. In so many ways, it is a buyer's market, really. I mean, if you've got a good idea, you can probably sell it to a number of different places. But we have to work out how to bring people to it.
Something else that I keep referring to what happened earlier. It was a really great session. But
I wish I'd been here.
But there was a sense that in a sort of streaming environment, that a lot of those things perhaps burn very brightly in the moment, but what you're not looking at is something that returns, which of course producers, is kind of key to the sort of ideation and the whole process is that you want something that runs for seasons and seasons. Do you think that's fair in terms of your kind of commitment to something that runs and runs and runs versus something that is talked about for a short period of time?
Look, I think the thrill of the new is also always going to be sort of, the big cachet for Netflix. And I think that you're always looking for the next new thing. And I think that is absolutely, the right thing. But we're on season 4 of Love is Blind. We're on season 3 of At Home with the Furies. We're on season 3 or 4 of Inside or Outside. Like, I think we are definitely commissioning more than we're on season 3 of Squid Game. We are definitely commissioning series after series after series. Yeah, but I think the important thing is to ensure that you are continuing to surprise and delight series by series. What you can't have is, I know what all the beats of this are, and here I am watching it again, and it's exactly the fucking same. That's really boring, and I think you lose people.
And so at Netflix, you're commissioning for the UK specifically, or out of the UK for the rest of the world?
I'm commissioning for both. So one stream is local for local content. I'm commissioning properly for UK audiences, thinking about UK audiences using British creativity. And I still believe that there is nothing more potent than British creativity in our area. We are the best in the world. Sorry, the Netherlands and Korea, but we are the best. And I really believe in that. I work really closely with Jeff Gaspin and his team, and with Brandon. In fact, they're coming over here in a couple of weeks to meet all of you lot and talk about this more. But I'm commissioning for there and there. So there are two streams in the US. You can either go straight to the US or you can come to me and my team with Keziah, Ogun, Sam Crack, Luke McFarlane.
So something that might be commissioned here, probably produced here, but was ostensibly
we want
for
British
Jeff's
creativity
team.
for the US. Like, we've had it already. We've had, like I said, Squid Game, Too Hot to Handle, Drive to Survive. There's all these amazing sort of British creatives that are making shows for and we've got Monopoly coming.
Okay, so tell me whether this is fair. I think Netflix UK has had you mentioned some big unscripted shows.
Yeah.
I think if you changed lanes and talked about scripted, when you talk about The Crown, Adolescence, it could kind of keep going. You're talking about Baby Reindeer. You talk about shows that became the conversation, probably across film, TV, full stop.
Yeah.
The cultural, moments,
Culturally
like huge
impactful.
global, and respectfully, I'm not quite sure in unscripted you've had those moments yet. Is that the
Not yet, maybe, but that's why I'm here.
Right.
I think that's not quite fair. I think we have had some big moments. I think you can't argue with things like Squid Game when it first launched being a big cultural moment, having sort of a big conversation that was happening across the globe. And I think Home with the Furies is just doing remarkably well, and it is so brilliant. And then the next series, which we've also commissioned with, which centers in on Tyson's fight and Venezuela's wedding, which is amazing. Like there's lots of really good fun stuff happening there, and it does do really well. But I think it is fair to say that the default thing for people to watch on Netflix is probably scripted. So I think when you're thinking about what shall I watch somewhere, you probably go to Netflix for scripted, and you probably go there for documentaries, probably above unscripted. And I think my job is to make unscripted that feels as compelling as scripted, so that when you're thinking about, what shall I go and watch something that's easy and fun, you're thinking about coming to Netflix first. It becomes the default place. That's my job.
What would obviously everything you commission by definition will be completely different to the next project and unique and stand out. But then what is there a through line in terms of what you're looking for? Is there sort of, as a side, a project have a sort of certain DNA?
Yeah, I think I've got sort of four buckets. I hate the word buckets. I can never think of a better. 4 areas, right, that I am really interested in. I think when I look at what's working on Netflix, and you look at how well scripted and documentaries are working, it's all about people and stories, right? So if you think about what scripted is you create a world, you realise a world, you pepper it full of actors who are characters who are, going through some sort of obstacles or transformation or some sort of storyline. There's a big irresistible hook that pulls you in. You're implicated in the narrative. You're following those story beats, and you watch that and you get emotionally fulfilled by it.
So kind of huge prestige.
Yeah, that's what scripted is. What's unscripted for me is exactly the same, but instead of actors trying to be real, you have real people. And I think that is our big creative magic lever in unscripted. So I want unscripted drama. I want prestige reality formats that feel like unscripted drama. So you build the world, you really realise that world. The world does a lot of the producing. The structure of that world does a lot of the producing. You put real people at the heart of it. You ensure that you've got a really good hooky sort of starting point. Then you let the narrative unfold, and you let the vagaries and varieties of human nature take you to places that you didn't know it was going to go. That's what I'm looking for, but in different emotional registers to the traitors. I don't want to keep making the traitors.
Is that one category?
That's one category. Sorry, I can go on.
That's one big category.
Sorry, but it is. But I think it's the most important one. So that's one big category. Sorry for those who've heard this before. I know some of you have. The second one I think is heartbeat formats, and that is still formats rather than sort of magazine shows or something, but formats that are in the feel-good emotional register. So, or adventure, humour, intimacy, like all that joy that I think is missing. And I think those formats I want with a little bit of Netflix swagger. That thing that I remember sort of quite a lot at the beginning, that sort of, we're going to do a cookie show. Yeah, if we're going to do a cookie show, it's going to be nailed it. Or, it's going to have that slight, we're going to fucking do it our way. I want a bit of that back, and a bit of that sort of anarchy in those formats. And I really, again, it's hard. It's easy to say these things, and you come in and I go, "Oh, what the fuck is that?" But I really do mean that. I want you to challenge me and challenge my team with the sorts of things that you bring in that way. So that is a really big second format. And that's where At Home with the Furies and Love on the Spectrum and Race Across the World and Last One Laughing, all that stuff, I think fits that category. And it's probably more real world. The third one is live and interactive. So we have a live department run by the brilliant Daisy Lilly. And so we will work together on this. She's doing a lot of live and events things. But if it's a format, an unscripted format, then we'll do it together. And I want to have a more interesting conversation with the audience. Like reality television, interactive reality television or formats have been around for a long time. We have the same sort of conversation. Who are you going to vote for? Blah, 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 blah. What else can we do? How can we move that conversation on? And how can we create this sort of amazing national moments, these event moments that get everybody talking? And then the fourth one is really tapping into fandom, targeted audiences who want different things. I don't think like young men are that interested in narrative arcs and character development. I think they just want dopamine hit after dopamine hit after dopamine hit. So how do we sort of keep evolving and adapting to ensure we are talking to all audiences? And
then it feels that there's a sort of a renewed emphasis then with you coming in, and then you're breaking down what it is you're after. In terms of, does it mean an increase in the volume of commissions, or is it just more a sort of refocusing, or just kind of thinking more deeply about what gets commissioned?
I just want to commission shitloads of stuff. Look, I think what is brilliant about Netflix is there's no parameters or boundaries. So if it's a good idea and you want to make it, you just make it. There is no friction there. And if I believe it's going to bring in a big audience, and that's all I'm doing is serving the audience, then we'll make it.
And then that's a brilliant description of kind of what it is you're after. We can't sit here when we're also thinking about the wider industry and not acknowledge there's been, there's some big duty of care stories out there. There's the, maths, panorama, investigation. I mean, and it was touched upon earlier. And of course, the industry is evolving very quickly. Societies, etc. How do you ensure that your duty of care is entirely fit for purpose today and next week and next year? Tell us about that.
Look, I can't speak to what's happening in the maths. I don't know anything about it. But I think as a whole, the industry has got to live by one particular sensibility, which is people over production and process, no matter what. That you've got to always communicate well with the contributors that you have, that you're treating them with care and respect at all times. And in my experience of where I've worked and the places I've worked, the teams take that really, really seriously, that responsibility really, really seriously. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be looking to evolve and improve at all times. And I think, I know people have made this point before, but the world's changing really quickly, so the sort of pressures are changing really fast. You have to keep adapting. We have to, the duty of cares and welfare protocols don't just stay, inflexible. You have to keep moving with what's going on with the world, and we can always improve. And it's an important conversation to have. I'm sort of glad we're having it.
And also, that I can't sit here and not ask you the specific about Love is Blind, which was a story that we published last week. There are specific concerns around that show, so I kind of have to ask you what your reaction is. Yeah, I mean, I think in that particular instance, I think, having looked into it, I think we feel confident that as issues were flagged,
that all the right protocols were followed and everything was done exactly as it should be.
And then in terms of us being at South by Southwest, when you look across London, when you look across the broad programme, kind of the big through line is AI.
Yeah.
It's a very sort of tech-forward event, festival. In fact, we've got an AI session coming up next. So to kind of lead into that, for Netflix, when you're looking at new projects, are you comfortable with people coming to you with either with ideas or with decks or materials that have been generated using AI, or even with formats that might actually use AI in their execution? Do you have protocols? How does AI work in the world of unscripted over at Netflix?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have protocols at Netflix. We're also a tech-forward company, and I think we've actually bought Ben Affleck's company into Positive, which is an AI company. But I think I'm very relaxed about people using AI as a tool to bring ideas in. I think it is a really brilliant tool. We should, be using it. I think where we have to be careful is where we use it on camera and in a show. And I'm really keen to not really, and I'll never say never, but I don't really want to use AI in an unscripted television. And I tell you, there's one particularly interesting thing I think about the landscape now as AI becomes a bigger and bigger deal, which is it's hard now to tell what is fake and what is real, and it will become harder. And I therefore think that unscripted television, which is all about real people in real situations going through real journeys, suddenly becomes even more important, because this is content that you can trust is real. And these are real people going through these real reactions or whatever the journeys are. That I think that makes us more potent in an AI world than less.
The sort of the real part of reality as a premium.
The real part of reality, exactly. I think being real has always been our watchword, and those real people and real stories become really, really interesting when you're in a sort of mishmash of a multimedia world where you can't tell what's going on. Perhaps there is less rigor in other platforms, I won't say which ones, where, and also less duty of care, where things are happening and you don't know what is real and what isn't.
Saida, it's been great to kind of to hear some of the past, present, and then talk about the future as well. And appreciate this is still a new job, so you could have said too soon, Stuart, when you were asked. But it's great. It's also being filmed for Deadline, so it goes around the world.
Oh, great. I love you as well, the world.
Did I not say that?
No, the Brits are great. Oh, you are too.
So I appreciate it's still early days, but when do we see the first sort of fruits of of the new job? When do we see the first shows coming out?
Well, we have been very busy in 3 months, and I can't talk about the stuff that's coming, but there is some really big, exciting, fucking audacious stuff coming, and I'm genuinely excited for you to hear about it. Okay. But I want more.
All right, that's great. It's a nice way to end it. Please join me in saying a big thank you to Saida, to Sally.